Hi Illustrated Faith friends, this is Ty Bender and I wanted to get a process video together for you guys today. I thought we'd do a fun technique that people ask me about sometimes, and I've done a few pages like this and people seem to like it and always have lots of questions, so I thought you would enjoy seeing how the process works. I'm going to show you a couple of pages I've done using this process, and the first one is here. And it is the prodigal son parable. Basically what we're going to be focusing on is doing the nice one big word here and coloring it in a similar technique here on the side. And I'm going to be using some paints to show you how I did this process. And then actually back here, it's kind of going to look a little more like this page where we've got, one nice big word. That's what I want to focus on for the page, and maybe a little bit of journaling. And I'm going to show you how to do this splatter paint technique as well. So we are going to be working in Mark chapter 4. There's a lot of parables in here. I've been studying Mark chapter 4 for a Bible study that I'm part of. So on this page we have the parable of the sower, a lamp under a basket, the parable of the seed growing, and the parable of the mustard seed. And in most of the parables here, you come across this phrase that Jesus uses that says, if anyone has ears to hear, let him hear. And it says that a few times in here, and really what I am getting out of the page, the message here is to listen. And then based here on the parables on the page, listen, and that leads to, you being a light and to growth. And I really just wanted to focus my whole page, listen, because Jesus says that many times in these parables, and that is the word that's jumping out to me. He who has ears, let him hear. So listen, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. I went ahead and wrote out the word just using a regular old number 2 pencil, something I took from my kids' school box. I don't use any fancy pencil, anything like that. I will say that when I use an eraser, I almost always use this eraser here. It kind of comes out like that. It doesn't leave marks on the page. It clears everything off really good, and it doesn't make a lot of little fuzzy things that you have to brush off all the time either. So all I've done is I've written the word in pencil, and I'm going to go over it again with my journaling pen that is in the Genesis kit. You can use whatever journaling pen you like. I like to use also Micron pens sometimes. I've used Pitt Artist pens before. Whatever journaling pen you have that doesn't bleed will work for this application. I really like this one. It writes very smooth. It's nice and silky. And I think you'd like it too. It doesn't bleed at all. No bleeding with this pen. I'm going to go ahead and put my U-Rule Bible mat in between the pages. This is also from the Genesis kit, but you can use, whatever you want to put between the pages or nothing at all. There's a lot of stuff in my Bible back here, embellishments, stickers, things that just make it hard to write on the page and keep it smooth. So this helps protect against any marks that I don't want to leave on the page here. So I'm just going to stick that under there. And I'm going to go over it again with the pen that we talked about so you can see how I do the writing. Basically, I just write the word in cursive. This is my own handwriting. Use your handwriting. It's going to be great. It's pencil, so you can erase it. I always erase it after I go over it in pen. I'm going to erase the little marks that are left with the pencil. It's perfectly fine. So, basically here what I've done is, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but the down strokes, I just wrote it in cursive plain, and then I came back around, and on the down strokes I've made them wider, and that's the part that we're going to paint in. So when I write over that again, I don't want to go through that thick part. I'm going to avoid going through that. And even though I'm writing right over the text, you can still read the words that are under there. It's not covering up so much that you can't read at all what's going on. So I'm just going to go and write it normally, and then I will show you how I came back and did those downstrokes. See there, I'm already off my pencil line, but that's okay. This pen's nice too because if you have to start and stop, like I keep picking it up, it's very forgiving. You can't really tell exactly where I had to stop and start over again. Like a regular maybe ballpoint or gel pen might do for you. Okay, and then to thicken the downstrokes, I just come back, and you know what, I just did exactly what I told you not to do and right through there, but it's going to be okay. It'll be pretty with the paint anyhow. So, listen, and since I went ahead and messed up here and here, I'm going to go ahead and just go through and keep it consistent. Here's the dot for the eye, and then I'm just making the downstroke of the eye a little wider. And the same with the S here, make it a little wider. Downstroke here, downstroke here, on the N. And then I'm going to just cross the T with one solid line. While I'm at it, since I'm getting ready to erase the pencil marks, I'm going to go ahead and, I wrote in the light and grow here with the little arrow. I'm going to go ahead and go over that with the pen as well. Some people ask me, I guess it's hard to tell in pictures, that my Bible does have lines in the margin. I think most of the journaling Bibles do have lines. I'm not sure if there is one without lines at this time. But quite honestly, these are very light, and I do not notice them, and they are super helpful for writing words like this. Where I mean, it's very easy for me to keep them in a straight line because the lines are on the page. So that's one reason I don't mind them at all. And here I'm just going to do dashes, and then like we saw on that page that said together, we might just fill this in with a little bit of watercolor, and I will show you how to do that. All right. This pen dries really quickly. With my micron pen, I normally wouldn't erase over this right away because it takes a little while for that to set in, but this one dries very quickly, so I'm just going to go back over and get rid of any pencil marks since we're going to be adding paint, and I won't be able to get rid of them later. So I'll just erase right over to get rid of any pencil marks that I might have on here. This is real quick. No big deal. I didn't write very hard with the pencil, so we'll just get rid of any marks that I had on there. Get those all off. No, we do not have to worry about those anymore. Okay, so I'm going to be using two different kinds of paint for this page today. The first kind is going to be these Neocolor 2. These are the water-soluble wax pastels, and what they are is they work just like watercolors. They kind of melt when you add water to them. Now the Neocolor ones, those are not the same. Make sure if you're going to get these and you want them to be watercolor, water soluble, you get the Neocolor 2 ones. And they come in different sizes. You can get these on Amazon. This is the set that has 40, and I really love it. I love having all the colors. These are probably my favorite paints. They're just so forgiving, easy to work with, and painting isn't my first trade. I've never taken any classes or anything like that, so these are super fun to work with. And I went ahead and selected some colors here, so I'm going to go ahead and pull those out. Just some colors that make a nice rainbow. That's what I want to go with today. Get these out of the way. Oops. And then I'm also going to be using some acrylic paints. And basically I'm showing you this technique with the splatters will be done in the acrylic paints. And you can see here, I'm just using the Folk Art, and then this one's Americana, just the cheap acrylic paints that you can get at the craft store. I like using them for this splattering technique because, you know, they come in so many colors. I have a million of these things laying around, and you know, you don't have to go and buy the $7 tubes of acrylic paint for every application. Of course, I have some of those. I adore them. They're wonderful to work with. But for this application where I'm splatter painting, these cheapy paints will do just fine. And I've got some different kinds here. This one's like a multi-surface. These are just plain craft acrylics here. And I'll show you a little bit more about my technique for the splattering later. So when I paint in these letters, I like to start with, you know, whatever color you're going to start with in the rainbow here. And I just kind of, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colors pulled out. I only have 6 letters, so I want to kind of make sure in the middle I overlap here, but basically is one-ish color per letters. And I'm just going to go right in there, color them in like crayons. You know, it doesn't get much easier than this. So these are, like I said, these are just very forgiving. You don't have to, I mean, I do stay in the lines, but you don't have to get all the way to the edge. We'll do that with the water brush in a minute. So here, this is in the middle here. I'm going to make sure I use 2 colors on the S and the T, so we get all of our rainbow colors in there. Purple. And you can see that, I mean, this is just super, super easy. There's not any way to get easier with this process. I mean, everybody knows how to color with crayons, and these things are just beautiful when they're all done. Look at orange, a little orange up here, and then finish off with some yellow. There are other ways to use these paints. You can dip them in water and then use them. You can get your brush and brush it right on the tip and then put the brush right on the paper. But for this application, I always just color them in. Then what I do like to do next is use one of these water brush pens. This one's a Sakura brand. You can get these at the craft store. I think this one came from Hobby Lobby. This is actually, these paints are actually the only application I like to use a water brush for. I'm not a huge fan of the water brush, but for whatever reason, these things just react amazingly with these paints. So I like to keep a paper towel handy because I want to wipe off the color before I kind of go into the next one. I don't want them to bleed together too much. But these here, the water comes right out the brush with a little squeeze. I'm not going to squeeze it while I use it. That would get the page too wet. I just dry it off here on the paper towel and get right in there and start, and you can see the color just melts. You can push it right to the edge of the line there where you weren't maybe coloring in all the lines, and I'm going to wipe it off before I go to the next color. These are just so easy and beautiful to work with. You guys are going to love these if you don't have a set and you want to go out and get a set. Even just the little 10 set from Amazon, these are just so fun, and I know you would love them. So here we go. I am going to fill in the rest of these colors here. You can see this goes really quickly, and I'll show you when this is done too. This color does not bleed through the page. As long as you use just a little bit of water like we're using here, you're not going to have bleeding. It might wrinkle a little bit, but hey, I love my pages to get wrinkled and crinkled, and you can really tell that I've been in the Word and studying, and I just think my Bible, it makes me so happy to look at it, the beautiful colors and the used pages. And it kind of reminds me, I think, how I just want God to use me up. So, and you can see here that the pen also, the Illustrated Faith journaling pen, does not smear with the water at all. It's completely waterproof. It's a permanent pen. So here I've kind of got my letters colored in with the paint, and it dries very quickly. It should be dry here in just a minute or so, at least dry enough to move on. Sometimes I like to color in when I do, like I said, I have several pages that are similar to this one in my Bible. So it usually creates like a little box here, and sometimes I like to color that in. I think I'll go, since it's grow and light, I think I might color it in with the green and then just fade it into a yellow. I don't get real precise here with this technique or anything, so I'm just gonna overlap the colors a little bit so they can look like they're faded together. And I'm not going to go over the words. I'm just going to add just a little bit of color here, just to add some color on this side of the page. These colors really push together well. You can push it right into the yellow, you know, so it's blended really nicely. They're a little more forgiving than regular watercolors, I think. So now I got some color over here, and I will move on and show you how I do the splatter painting technique. I showed you the acrylic paints I used, and I put them in on a paper plate or in a little palette like this, and I add some water, and just a little bit of water is all you need here. It goes a long way, and I'm talking like a squirt of paint and maybe 3-4 drops of water. Mix them up so they're a little runny here. That makes them easier to splatter onto the page. Always have way more than I need, and my daughter loves it when I do this technique. She's 7 years old, and so every time I do this, I have paint left over in the palette, and I just hand it to her, and she goes off to create, you know, unicorns and bunnies and all those wonderful things that little girls love to do. So just have my watered down paints here, and I'm just going to go in there. This is just, you know, nothing fancy, just a small tipped brush, and I do have a couple water handy so that I can rinse between each color. So just pick a color. And, you know, I like to load it up, and the paint, you can see here, it's pretty wet, and that's kind of what you want for this process. It's not going to bleed through if you just don't mess with it, let it dry. It's not going to bleed through. It's going to lay right on top of the page. And but the liquidiness of it, that's what makes it splatter really easily. So I just hold out my finger like this, and I go in there and tap, 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 and paint just falls all over the page, you know, splatters right down. And you can put as much or as little if you want on here, different colors or whatever. Got a little heavy right there. If I wanted to, you could go in and soak that up a little bit with a paper towel. I'm just going to leave it. Then I'll rinse that off. Dry my brush a little on the paper towel and just go on to the next color. And this one's nice and drippy too. If you get the bigger splatters, you might want to go from higher up if you want them smaller. Sometimes too, if I don't get it quite wet enough or whatever, I'll just give it like a little flick, and that splatters it around as well. And you might want to cover this page up. I just left it clear there, and then this is protecting my edge. I slide it up to protect those tabs up there on the top. It's getting on my desk and things like that, but I'll just make sure I wash off my surface right after I'm done. These pretty much just wipe right up. You can use a baby wipe or just water. Okay, next color is blue. Sprinkle some of that on the page. And I've got one more color here. Add on some orange. And that is it, guys. That's how I kind of go with my painting techniques. It's two different techniques here with two different kinds of paint. And like I said, they look a little wet there. I'll just leave this completely still. I don't hit it with a heat gun. I actually don't have a heat tool. But I did use one once that I borrowed from a friend. I did not really enjoy the way that it kind of spread it just a little bit. I mean, even though they don't blow air, I prefer it just to dry naturally. Oh, and I know I wanted to add a tab to this page. I was going to show you guys another technique I have. Before I got started, I was testing out the rainbow colors that I wanted to use on this little index card with cardstock. So to make a tab for the page that says listen, all I'm going to do is take this, and you could either hand cut a tab shape out, or in this case, I'm going to use my tab punch. I'm going to flip him over so I can see that I'm getting the tab where the color is. And then I'm going to punch it out. There we go. And I do have my mini Bless Her Heart sticker set. This is in the Genesis kit, but whatever small stickers, or even if you want to handwrite, I'm just going to put the word listen here on my tab. Oops. Oh, I smeared my color. Oh well. Might want to be a little careful if you don't want to do that. When I'm creating here, I mean, I just get messy, and that to me, maybe for some people that's a big deal, but for me it's just, I just go with it. I mean, it's not a big deal to me, and I want to encourage you to just go for the art. I mean, God is creative. He created us in His image, and you know, just to be what we are, exactly what we are. He created us what we need to be for His work here. And I think I'm creative in His image. And creativity is often messy, and that's part of me also. So if I get messy on my page, I'm okay with it. Okay, so it says listen, and then I want to tell you also, you don't need washi tape, you don't need anything fancy, no fancy glue. I don't have a tiny attacher, you know, to attach this tab on. I'm going to use a good old Elmer's glue stick that I stole from my kids' book bag. So just flip it over. I just put it on the bottom part only, and a lot of my tabs are adhered this way, and it sticks just very well. I don't have any fear that it's going to fall off. So I just rub it on there, and I'm going to stick it down right here on the top. It says listen. All right, so I'm going to call the page done now and let it dry, and I'll take a picture of it so you guys can see it a little closer. But I think you'll really enjoy these paint techniques. This is just so fun. You're just going to love it. And I hope you're encouraged to maybe read some parables and hear what God has to say to you through these parables. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.